But yeah, I love the fact that I can actually go as fast as I need to and not worry about the ink being able to flow out. So that's really nice. Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of Is It Worth It, where I go around the world and the internet looking for art supplies to make your job just a little bit easier, or for you to enjoy the craft just this much more. And today we are coming pretty much for me full circle when it comes to markers, because this was the marker that I actually started with my professional career. And I remember when I was eventually nicknamed the marker guy because I was at a convention. I was actually at San Diego Comic-Con, and these people came by my table. They saw me working on a commission. They asked me which markers I was using. I said Prismacolor markers, and they were like, "Oh, so you do Prismas?" And I showed them a suitcase filled with Prismacolor markers. So Prisma was where I started, and so I'm very excited to look at the new Prismacolor markers and to see just how they're holding up, to see if they're actually worth it, or with how things have gone, these have become a bit expensive, and I'm wondering if they're still worth it for the student, semi-pro, pro people as a disposable marker. So I'm excited to check these out. I hope you are. So come on, let's go check them out. Alright, so as we can see, the chipboard that they use is really nice, right? Because it's just colorful, catches your eye right away, and it's like, hey, come check us out. We've got a new assortment of colors, dual end, chisel, fine tip, professional artist quality colors, advanced ink formulation, provide rich color saturation with smooth silky ink flow and coverage, impressive color laydown, 4 different line widths available with each double-ended art marker. So these are, it's a really nice packaging, right? But it's nothing special, just original chipboard that is pasted down with a clear plastic sticker. So we're gonna go ahead and try and open this up, as I've already ruined the box. Ugh. Definitely don't want you stealing it. All right, so all right, there we go. Okay. All right. All right, we'll just put that. Okay, just put that over there. All right. Okay. Colors do we have? We've got 2 blues, 2 purples, 2 greens, yellow, orange, no red. Interesting. I'm really surprised that there's no red. So, interesting. Alright, what color is this supposed to be? No, that's crimson red. Okay. I'm wondering if the colors are actually going to match the what's indicated. So these are rounded markers. It's a little bit thicker. A lot of markers now are getting thinner, but it's a little bit thicker. I'm hoping so that there's more ink on the inside. It has caps that have actual lips on them, so it should stop them from rolling. See? So that's a nice design, right? So you don't have to worry about your marker just randomly rolling off the table. Even if you I pushed it really hard, right? Right? Eventually it's gonna stop. So that's a nice design. I like that it will actually stop the rounded marker from rolling away, which is great. The nib here comes to a really nice point. Seems pretty standard, but it's got a really nice point on it, which is nice. Listen for the snap. Great snap. Chisel looks pretty standard. I wonder if that's the same on each one. No. Okay. So yeah, pretty standard chisel on there. What I do like when I see these is just how, juicy the marker looks. It looks like there's a lot of ink in there, so the flow should be great as it says. Let's try to post. Post is really nice. Both sides. All right, cool. So it reminds me of all the same markers that I used to have when I used to use Prismas. So let's go and check these out. Grab a piece of, Bristol board. All right, so let's try some of these colors out. All right. Okay, it takes a second to get that to work down, but it says you can get a whole bunch of different sizes out of your marker, which is cool. No, there was another. Oh yeah, the super thick side. So you got 3 primarily, right? You got the thin one, that one, and then super thick, and then you have this. All right. So you do have 4 different line widths within the marker, which is great. As far as the marker itself goes, look at that coverage. That's really nice. Like, you can't even argue that. You have to go over it more than once for sure, right? To make sure that it's just nice and even, but the flow is great, right? You don't even have to. The flow is really nice. It starts good, but just like any alcohol marker, the very beginning of it leaves you that little bleed line. So that's something you have to keep in mind if you're trying to do just line work with this, is that as soon as you put it down, it is pushing out ink. So you have to be careful that you don't ruin your piece just because. But the coverage is nice. It's a very even coat. You do have to go over it a couple times though, right? That's something that you got to keep in mind. You have to go over it a couple times just to get that nice even coat. But with that said, look at that. That's just right, and it flows, right? And you don't even have to from once. Oh man, that connection is super tight. But you don't have to worry about it kind of breaking up, so that's really nice, right? These are great. They're great. Now, the thing that you do have to remember is that they are non-refillable. So that's something. Wow, look at how rich that color is. All right, so that is definitely something that you got to keep in mind. Is they are not refillable. But the tip, the chisel tip, the bullet, they do real nice. They hold up very well. Prismacolor has been pretty much a standard. Like, when you get started, people are like, "Oh, you got to have Prismacolors," or it's what's in their kit. The one thing that I despite the actual color and how vibrant it is and how much everything flows out, which is really nice, is that you do have to go over it a couple times, right, to make sure that it's nice and even. But you gotta watch out, because you gotta activate them sometimes, so you might be losing a little ink as you move forward, just trying to get the flow of the ink. But that's almost every marker. It's very consistent with everything, although the color, that's pretty close. That's pretty close too. The colors are pretty close. This way. They're pretty close, right? They're not that far off. So that's nice. So you can pretty much gauge just what kind of color you're gonna get based on the color that's on the marker. It's always a plus. yeah, I love the fact that I can actually go as fast as I need to and not worry about the ink being able to flow out. So that's really nice. So I mean, it just keeps staying consistent, right? Everything that you get from the very first marker to the very last marker that we're using, it stays consistent. You can't argue that. Although that is not red. That is still an orange. But yeah, it's just like, I mean, you have to be honest, it's just like I remembered, right? Very consistent, very clean, flows real nice. Can't argue with that. The only or the biggest issue is that you do have to go over it a couple times to ensure that you get a nice even coat, right? So. Yeah. All right, so we'll do Copic. All right, got to do the fine liner test. Copic, touch, Faber-Castell, Stedler, and Micron. All right, so we're gonna take a couple different colors, right? Probably this light purple as well. What I've noticed, as I've said before, the lighter the colors are, the more that it kind of destroys. Yeah. There we go. I'm glad that it hasn't, like, I'm not going crazy. Like, oh my goodness. This is where you start realizing, right, that where, like, Prisma is good, it is, but man, does it not, like, the smaller color, the lighter colors just do not like fine liners, like, at all. So so with the darker colors, like I said, the darker colors are able to stay more together, right? And the Stedler, the Micron, the Touch are the most, they're the most consistent, not affected, and they're pretty good, right? But then when it comes to these lighter colors, like Copic, like these, like Prismacolor completely obliterated. I mean, obliterated the Copic fine liner. So if you go over it, it's just gonna pull your ink everywhere. Same thing with, like, Stedler got pulled up, Faber-Castell got pulled up. Touch had a hard problem with the yellow, but the blue and orange were fine. The one that is the #1 champion when it comes to Prismacolor is Micron. So if you're gonna use Prismacolor markers and you need to line your work, you need to use Microns, because otherwise everything's gonna smear out. Alright, so we just got done reviewing the Prismacolor dual-ended markers, and I mean, they're pretty consistent, right? They're just like I remember it. They have a nice flow, it's very consistent, it's vibrant, the tips are very nice, everything's great, right? The thing that I've realized is that the biggest issue I've ever had with Prismacolor markers was the fact that it kept pulling up on my fine liners, right? So when I was inking and doing my comics and stuff, it would always pull it up and it would make it look, sloppy. And so it seems as though if you're using the lighter colors with Prismacolors, that's what it's gonna do. It's just gonna pull up your fine liner. Whatever the ink and the alcohol-based concoction for the marker don't like each other, and they just pull and smear, and that's just not good. It's just not good. I mean, that's all there is to that. That's just not good, especially at that extent. But if you are going to use Prismacolor markers, you need to use Micron pen fine liners because those were the ones that bled the least, okay? And they're not refillable. And if you go to the store and you try and buy them, they're kind of expensive, right? You go to Michael's and it's still $5, almost $6 a marker, and they're not refillable. The only benefit is that you can find plenty, and I do mean plenty, of deals when it comes to Prismacolor markers. So, you gotta give and take on that one. I think they're expensive, they're not refillable, so it's not worth the amount of money that you gotta actually pay for the expense of a throwaway marker, and it keeps pulling up my fine liners. So in the end, they're good, they're nice, like stepping stone, I would say, so that when you're going away from what you would give your children to going, I'm a student or a semi-pro, they're actually pretty good. But in the end, I would definitely recommend you to a different marker. So I guess the final result is they're not actually worth it. Well, that wraps up today's episode of Is It Worth It? I hope that you gained some type of information and that it was helpful in some way. If there is a product that you would like me to actually review, please go ahead and drop it in the comments below and I will make sure to add it to the list. If you are new to the channel, please go ahead and hit that subscribe button and the bell so that you are notified every time that I drop new content. Thank you guys so very much, and I will see you at the next episode.